Well, the push to crack down on TikTok has gained momentum in the U.S., with Congress on a fast track to approve a bill aimed at forcing a Chinese parent, ByteDance, to divest its ownership stake in the app or face a ban. Well, the TikTok divestiture legislation has now been tied to a sweeping package of aid for Taiwan, Israel, and Ukraine that the chamber set to clear on Saturday. The measure, if approved by the House of Representatives, is expected to be quickly passed by the Senate and then signed into law by President Joe Biden. ByteDance would then have to sell TikTok within 6 months of the bill's enactment or be banned. TikTok has called it unfortunate that the U.S. is using the cover of foreign and humanitarian assistance to jam through a ban bill. Now, TikTok is a big deal in the U.S. It has about 170 million American users, and they make up the bulk of the app's user base. Media reports, however, say that the loss of U.S. users may not be immediate. Those with existing accounts will still likely be able to continue using TikTok, though a ban on App Store support would mean a loss of access to future updates. Now, a ban would also add to the list of actions by the U.S. to decouple from China economically and technologically. U.S. lawmakers and enforcement officials have argued that Chinese authorities could force ByteDance to give access to data on the millions of Americans on the app. Well, TikTok has repeatedly denied that it can be used as a tool of the Chinese government. Well, earlier, TikTok spoke to Singapore's Today Online and said that it is hopeful that the Senate will consider the facts and realize the impact of the ban on the economy. Well, experts say that the episode may further affect the wider U.S.-China relationship, which has been tense in recent years. And for more on this, we are joined now by CNA's Olivia Seong, live from Beijing, and Denny Lee, consultant at Allied Forensics and Intelligence Advisory, live from Singapore. So let's just start with you first. Olivia, what exactly has the response been to this latest development?
Well, we saw TikTok post that statement on X last night in which it said that it's unfortunate that the House is using the cover of important foreign and humanitarian assistance to once again, it says, jam through a ban bill that would, it says, trample on the free speech of 170 million Americans, referring to the estimated number of users of TikTok in the U.S. Also, it says that the move would devastate 7 million businesses and shut a platform. Now, the main issue here with supporters of this bill are accusations that TikTok, which is owned by Chinese company ByteDance, has links to the Chinese government, and that poses risks for data privacy as well as national security. Now, China's foreign ministry has previously said that this move is not fair, and it had even called it that, even said that the bill follows, quote, the logic of a bandit. And we have seen also a report by a U.S. media outlet saying that the Chinese embassy in the U.S., its staffers, have been lobbying Congress staffers against the bill as well. So definitely TikTok in panic and crisis mode right now.
The logic of a bandit, those are pretty harsh words. Danny, tell us how big a deal is this potential ban on TikTok? I guess as a broader decoupling strategy between US and China, and obviously its impact economically and technologically.
Well, not fairly. I think even if the law is passed, it's still going to take a while. As we have mentioned that, TikTok will have 6 months. And during these 6 months, we can expect TikTok to mount a legal challenge against the bill, against the application of the bill. Then again, as we have mentioned, 170 million users. So these users are likely to be very upset, because what happens is that, TikTok is going to upset their source of income. As Olivia has mentioned, we're talking about 7 million businesses. So it's the entire ecosystem that will be very, very upset. And that's perhaps not a very wise thing to do in an election year. So it's still early days yet, I would say.
So, Olivia, as what Danny said, TikTok will most likely fight back. So in terms, that means that the steps that they have taken does not seem to be effective at all in allaying concerns?
Well, I think TikTok is finding itself in a bit of a pickle here. It's taken steps to try and distance itself from the Chinese government. For example, its headquarters are actually not in China, but in Singapore and the US. It also appointed a non-Chinese Singaporean CEO back in 2021. And we saw that, famous viral clip of Shou Chew, the CEO of TikTok, defending himself and the company, although some might argue to no avail. Here's a recap.
Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for two and a half years in Singapore.
Do you have any other passports from any other nations?
No, Senator.
Your wife is an American citizen. Your children are American citizens.
That's correct.
Have you ever applied for American citizenship?
No, not yet.
Okay. Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator. Again,
Okay.
I'm Singaporean.
Right. So, Danny, perhaps let's bring you in here. I just want to talk about a report, actually, whereby diplomats from the Chinese embassy, apparently they met with the Hill officers. They're trying to push their talking points defending the app. Any sense of, what's happening, what sort of backroom talk is happening, and are these talks effective?
Well, I would say that in terms of effectiveness, may not be that much, because we also do take into account that this is an election year. So a lot of emotions are at play here, and also a lot of, I'll call it political drama. So much as the Chinese embassy will try, I do not see it making very much headway. In fact, if anything at all, I would see more headway coming from the legal challenge from TikTok as well as the users. And as we've mentioned, now, perhaps it would be interesting to note that TikTok last year's annual revenue topped 120 billion, of which 16 billion came from the US. So if you take a look at it, this is not a small sum of money. So it is going to affect a lot of people and a lot of businesses. And these are the people which are not going to take it lying down, really.
Perhaps,
Though, we are talking about the broader China-US relationship over here as well. The big question is how much of this is posturing given the upcoming US presidential election that you mentioned. But we know China is not going to take this lying down, even though it wants to see good economic relations with the US. So what sort of response do you think we could expect from China, and how will it calibrate its response?
Well, I think China is probably comfortable in the sense that an economic decoupling is not possible. It's simply not possible. I think enough people have said that. And another thing also is that this tariff war, if you're going to increase tariffs, tariffs are borne by buyers. So these tariffs are going to affect US consumers. So that's something which I think the Chinese government is aware of. And there are certain things which I know that they have got some cuts in their favor too. So this decoupling is not going to take place simply. Technically, it is also not that easy.
Not that easy indeed. Well, we shall be keeping a close watch this weekend. Thanks so very much for your time, Olivia Seong and Danny Lee.